Welcome to the Coastal Kitchen. I'm Karen Mashers, and today we're going to celebrate St. Patrick's Day early. We're going to start brining a brisket because we're going to have corned beef and cabbage with new potatoes. We're going to have apple amber, and then we're making some homemade bread, Irish soda bread. So let's get started. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is take our brisket, and I've got a flat side brisket. And you can see that there is a nice amount of fat on this, and we're going to brine it with the fat on. And we're going to wash our brisket. Let's give it a nice rinse. And I got a little platter with some paper towels, and we're going to pat this dry. And it's going to take just a minute to let this dry while we're making our brine. Okay, let's get the back. That's good. Okay, I'm going to set that aside right now and use just a touch of soap. Get my fingers all washed off. And we're going to start with our brine. Have a big pot, okay? We're going to take big pot, put it on high, 4 cups of water, and I have 1.5 cups of very fine kosher salt. Got some sugar and some pickling spices, and this is 2 tablespoons of pickling spices, and we're going to, as you see on the recipe, reserve some for when we actually cook it. So we're going to let that start to boil, and while that's boiling, I'm going to show you my pink salt. Now, when you brine a brisket, the one thing that you can do is brine it naturally or use prog powder or a pickling salt. I like my meat to look pink, so I'm using my pink pickling salt, and it's a coarse ground. I'm going to put it in my lovely antique pepper mill, and I'm going to start to grind. Let's do it this way. Easier to hang on to. All right, let's see what we got. You can see that fine pink salt. That's going to go in. And I've got 3 cloves of minced garlic. I have reserved 1 clove for when we are going to do our cooking. Okay, let's get that all in there. All right, let's see if our salt is all melted. It is. I'm going to turn my stove off, and the next step is cooling it down. So I'm going to add another 12 cups of water, cold water, and we have to wait for this to completely cool before we put it over our brisket. Takes a little time and effort, but it's well worth it. Okay. Now, while that's cooling, let me grab something to move this over, because our last step after that cools is to put it over our brisket, cover it up, and let it sit. Now this is going to sit, once we do, for 5 to 7 days. You can even go as far as 10. But in the meantime, I've got a pot with some water in it. And I'm going to take the brisket that I cured earlier. It's called corned because it actually is large salt grains. It's not really corn, but it is a corned beef. We're going to put this in our pot. Make sure that it's covered fully with water, nice cold water. And we're gonna throw in some pickling spices. Okay, these go in the pot, and this is the reserved part from the menu. And let's get this over here. And we're gonna turn this on high. Want this to start to boil, get everything going, and when it starts to boil, we are going to cut it down to medium, put a lid on it, and get it ready. We're going to get ready to start our soda bread. Irish soda bread is a bread from Ireland, but some of the new additions to it aren't considered traditional. Some people put raisins or currants in their soda bread, but we're gonna make this from the old recipe. And I like it with both wheat flour and all-purpose white flour. So my recipe calls for 3½ cups, and I'm putting 2½ cups of whole wheat flour in. I'm putting 1 cup of white flour. Now, the reason it's called soda bread is baking soda. So let's throw our baking soda in. Let's throw our salt in. And I'm putting caraway seeds in this recipe. That's more of a traditional Irish soda bread. But if you don't like them, you can just leave it plain. Now, we're going to mix all of this up. Just give it a nice stir in the bowl. This is so easy and so quick, and no rise. Okay, with soda bread and the temperature and humidity factors taking into account, anywhere from 1½ cups of buttermilk to 2 cups of buttermilk, you might vary in between there. You want to get sort of a large clump dough. You want it to be wet. And right now I put about 1½ cups in, and I think I'm going to have to add that little bit extra. And this is where we get messy. Okay, nice big clumps. Okay. Hands in. But I'm going to move a little bit of this around. I'm going to put a little bit of flour on my board. And a little bit of the whole wheat flour too. Just lightly. And we're going to form this into a ball. And you can see this is just clumps of dough right now. So this is the fun part. All right, get everything off your fingers because it's wet. A little bit of flour on top, just a touch. And start to form it into a ball. I'm going to move around this way just a touch. Okay, we're going to start the kneading process. Now you don't want to knead more than about a minute because it doesn't take more than that. It's a rough country bread. Very wonderful texture. All right, just a touch more. And we're going to form this into a ball. And we want this to be about 6 inches around and about 2 inches high. And just press your edges in. I take just a little bit of whole wheat flour and sprinkle on the top, just like that. And I'm going to wash my hands real fast. Okay, got all that off. Now, let me grab a big spatula. I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to cut about 1 inch deep right across the center, and I'm going to make a cross. And I found out during my research on this Irish soda bread that the cross really is about breaking bread and being a Christian community. So easy to say your blessing when you've got a big reminder of a cross in front of you. All right, just lightly flour a pan, and I'm going to take my bread, place it on my pan. All right, gonna put this in a hot oven, and I want to make sure that I don't burn myself because it's gonna go into a 425-degree oven. It's gonna bake for 35 minutes, and it will be golden brown when we take it out. The one thing you can do is just give it a little tap and a knock on it. If it sounds hollow, it's right. And there's nothing better than that bread with lovely, sweet Irish cream butter. Let's clean this up. We're going to have a word from our sponsor, Lowe's Foods, and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
When you start with local produce, add some homegrown Carolina pride, and mix it all with a commitment to family, you get more than a locally based grocery store. You get the taste of home. Lowe's Foods. Lowe's Foods, proud sponsor of the Coastal Kitchen and ATM CTV.
Welcome back. I have our corned beef brisket on the stove down to low with a partial cover, and that's going to cook for between 2.5 to 3.5 hours. You'll know because it's going to be pork tender. Now I have our brisket that we're actually brining, and the brine has been made. It has cooled down sufficiently, and I have added all 12 cups of water, and all we're going to do is cover this. The big thing about it is this brisket, they like to swim. So what you need to do is take some type of plate, glass, and just put this over the top so it doesn't come up. Then we're going to cover it with tin foil. And this will be actually corned in 5 days, but you can leave it up to 10. I'd turn it after 5 days though, just to make sure. This is going to go in the refrigerator. We'll get that in the fridge, and we're going to make our amber apple pie. This recipe is a traditional old recipe that when I was looking for a dessert for today's menu, this just sounded right. If you like something that's full of lemon, apple, it's lovely and tart, not too sweet, you'll love this dessert. Now what I have done is I have peeled, and you can see I've cored 4 Granny Smith apples. And tart apples are a little bit better thing to use because they don't quite disintegrate completely. I'm just going to core the center out of this one. I've got 3 others already done. And you have to work quick because they do turn a little bit brown. But they're going to turn brown in the pan anyway, so just do it as quickly as you can. Don't cut your fingers. You can use a grater, a coarse grater, or if you have some type of food processor, we're going to shred these apples. That's next on our list. So I've got my blade in, and I'm going to put this right in and shred. Well, nearly done. And this takes a whole lot less time than shredding it or doing it by hand. Okay. Let's take this out. Beautiful, lovely shredded apples. And what I'm going to do is take 2 tablespoons of water. I think I can get this by hand without using anything else. 1, 2, and we're going to put our apples in, and I'm going to let that just start to steam, and that won't take but about 15 seconds. And now it's time to put our shredded apples in. We're going to let them cook medium heat until the apples condense down to where it's almost like a thick and hearty applesauce. And this takes about 15 to 20 minutes. So we're going to leave those sit right on the stove and start with the rest of the pie. Real easy. Let's get that out of the way. All right, a lemon. We're going to get the juice of 1 lemon. And I found this cute little juicer that has the bowl on the bottom so nothing gets in, because you don't want any seeds or pulp in the pie, because it's going to be quite tangy enough. And I'm just going to set that right aside. And now our eggs. We've got 3 eggs. Let me make sure that there's... And we're going to put the whites in the big bowl. We're going to make a wonderful meringue for the top of that pie. One thing that I can honestly say is that Ireland is the Emerald Isle. I've had the opportunity to go. The food is fabulous. The people are absolutely the kindest, sweetest, most accommodating that you'd ever meet. And the scenery is breathtaking, absolutely breathtaking. Okay, now, let me grab my whisk. Just want to whisk up these yellows, because that's going to go into our apple mixture. But we've got to put in the yellows and the lemon after the apples are done. That's when the sugar goes in too. Okay, egg whites. What we're going to start doing right now is beating our egg whites. Want to form stiff, hard peaks. And I'm going to use a high mixing speed. And I'm going to add just a hair of sugar. Because we're going to put about 3/4 of that in our apples, and the other quarter will go here in the meringue. Oh my! I better stop this real quick because I hear my timer went off. My soda bread is ready. Oh, take a look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Okay, I'm going to put that right here for the moment. Turn this off. And I want to get that off of that hot pan onto a cooling rack So let's put that over here right now. Okay. Take a look. Smells fabulous. Are we going to have some good eating in just a little while? Let's keep going. Okay, we've got that meringue started. It looks pretty good right now, but our apples should be just about ready. Now this is going to look almost, as I said, like a chunky applesauce, and it does. Absolutely looks gorgeous here. Okay, this is where we're going to put in about 3/4 of our sugar, and I've already used a little bit, so we're good there. In the sugar goes. And you can do this just off the stove. Now, I've whisked my eggs, the yolks, and I want to put those right in with my apples. You see, no flour. Originally, this pie didn't have a crust. It was just baked in the pie tin. In later years, they have added a pie crust. And so what I have done is, I'm going to put a little bit more of that sugar in there. And now it's time for our lemon. This is a tangy, tangy pie. Okay. Originally, the pie didn't have a pie crust. But as years progressed, one became a part of this pie. And so I have got a glass pie plate here, and I have lined it with my pastry dough, and we are putting all of our apple mixture in and just spread it all around. Want it to be nice and even. Oh man, I love apples and apple pies and anything with apples in it, so this is right up my alley. This is going in a 350 oven, and it's going to stay in there for 20 minutes. Then I'm going to finish my meringue. We're going to put the meringue on top of the pie. It's going to go back in the oven for another 10 minutes, and then it'll be ready. Okay, I'm going to keep working on my meringue, clean up the kitchen a little bit, while we have a word from our sponsors.
When you start with local produce, add some homegrown Carolina pride, and mix it all with a commitment to family, you get more than a locally based grocery store. You get the taste of home. Lowe's Foods. Lowe's Foods, proud sponsor of the Coastal Kitchen and ATM CTV.
Okay, brisket's out of the pot. It's time to add our vegetables, because you can't have corned beef and cabbage without the cabbage. All right, what I'm doing is I'm just going to cut this in half, and I should have gotten a bigger knife, but that's okay. We'll get it. Want the meat to rest at least 10 minutes before we even think about slicing it. And since we're going to cook vegetables in our stock, we're going to just let that rest a nice 15-20 minutes. It'll keep warm. We've wrapped it up in some tin foil, and these vegetables are going to cook pretty quick. Okay, cabbage, nothing fancy. Just cut it up into about 5 pieces each side of the head. You could even quarter it if it's a small one. And all you want to do is cut the core out and then just make your cuts. This is going to go in along with, if you like them, some red potatoes. I love red potatoes, so they're going in my pot. My celery and carrots cut up about half an inch. We're going to throw those in. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold on my cabbage because I don't want it to get mushy. I just want it to be nice and tender. So I've got about 30 seconds. I got to get my kitchen mitts to take my pie out of the oven and put the meringue on. The one thing you need to remember about meringue, and it's going to go off really quick. Now I think we can take it out right now, is you want to make sure that you seal the edges. So let's put this right here. Close that door so I don't lose the heat. And I'm going to give this just, there it goes. I'm going to give this just another little zhuzh here. Get all of that out. Now this goes right on the hot pie. And I'm going to put a dollop in the middle, dollop on this side, one over here, and believe me, I want it all. Okay, now spread out towards the crust. You just want to make sure that there are no holes between the crust and this meringue. The reason why you don't want any holes is because if you have holes, it will actually pull away from the pie crust. Alright, now all I'm doing is making some ridges and some pretty little designs here so when it browns, it will look gorgeous. Okay, going back in the oven for another 10 minutes. What I'm going to do is put everything together. We'll be back to show you what we've done today. And remember, you can find us on Facebook. Just search for the Coastal Kitchen.
When you start with local produce, add some homegrown Carolina pride, and mix it all with a commitment to family, you get more than a locally based grocery store. You get the taste of home. Lowe's Foods. Lowe's Foods, proud sponsor of the Coastal Kitchen and ATM CTV.
I have had a ball today. I have had so much fun looking up the history of these recipes. We've got corned beef, cabbage, new potatoes. We've got apple amber pie, a little bit of lemon that makes you pucker up for sure. Irish soda bread in the traditional manner. I've garnished with some Irish cheese, stone ground mustard, horseradish sauce. Of course, couldn't do it without a good dark Irish beer. Now, if you want to find us, you can look for us at Facebook. Search for the Coastal Kitchen. And I'm wishing you the luck of the Irish, and until next time, have fun cooking and make sure you like it your way.
Is 6:30 too early for a Get Fit workout? Are your weeknights too hectic to catch the West Brunswick football? Do you find yourself missing all your favorite ATMC TV shows? Well, now you don't have to. ATMC TV is airing all their latest shows on demand. Stop, pause, fast forward, or rewind. Watch your shows on your time. Tune to Channel 1 to see shows like Brunswick Biz, Get Fit, The Coastal Kitchen, and more. Stay connected to beautiful Brunswick County with ATMC TV on demand. Brought to you free by ATMC.
We are ATMC TV, Channel 3 and HD Channel 910, your community channel.